I didn't say a word as Beverly stood there in the flickering light of the community center parking lot, her face a mask of panicked rage. She was vibrating, clutching that clipboard like a shield that had finally been shattered. "You think you're so smart with your little investigation," she hissed, stepping into my personal space. "I know about your military contracts. I know you're running a business out of that house, Marcus. I will bury you in litigation. I will take that house, I will take your Iron Horse company, and I'll make sure you're blacklisted from every HOA in this state." I looked down at her, my expression as flat as the Iraqi horizon. "You're talking about will, Beverly. I'm talking about did. You did violate the bylaws. You did embezzle funds. And tomorrow morning, you're going to see exactly what happens when you try to fight a war you didn't prepare for." I turned my back on her and walked to my truck. I could hear her screaming behind me, a shrill, desperate sound that echoed off the brick walls of the center. She thought she was the predator. She had no idea she'd spent the last month poking a sleeping giant with a toothpick. The next morning, at precisely 800 hours, a low, rhythmic rumble began to vibrate the windows of Pine Valley Estates. It wasn't the sound of a lawnmower or a delivery truck. It was a deep, guttural growl that felt like it was coming from the center of the earth. I stood on my driveway, coffee in hand, wearing my old flight jacket. The morning air was crisp. At the end of the cul-de-sac, a massive heavy-haul flatbed trailer rounded the corner. On the back, draped in a desert tan tarp that fluttered in the wind, sat 25 tons of American history. The neighbors were already spilling out onto their porches. Tom Bradley stood by his mailbox, a slow, knowing grin spreading across his face. Mrs. Morgan stood on her steps, clutching a dish towel, her eyes wide. And then there was Beverly. She practically flew out of her front door, bathrobe fluttering, clutching her phone like a weapon. She was already screaming before she hit the sidewalk. "No, absolutely not. Stop that truck. You cannot bring that machine into this neighborhood." The driver, a veteran I'd served with named Miller, ignored her entirely. He backed that trailer right up to my driveway with the precision of a man who had delivered tanks under mortar fire. As the hydraulic ramps hissed and lowered, I walked over to the tarp and yanked the release cables. The fabric fell away, revealing the M60 Patton tank in all its restored glory. The steel was pristine, the white star on the turret gleaming in the morning sun. Emblazoned on the side in black stencil was the name Danny's Ghost, a tribute to Mrs. Morgan's nephew. Beverly was hyperventilating now, her face a shade of purple I'd only ever seen in medical manuals. "Marcus, this is a violation. Regulation 4.2, no commercial vehicles, no heavy machinery. I am calling the police. I am calling the city. You are finished." "Call them, Beverly," I said, not looking away from the tank. In fact, I already did. I invited them for the unveiling. As if on cue, 2 squad cars and a city code enforcement SUV pulled into the cul-de-sac. Beverly scrambled toward them, her voice reaching a pitch that probably had every dog in the county howling. "Officer, thank God, arrest him. He's brought a weapon of war into a residential zone. Look at it, it's destroying the pavement. It's a public safety hazard." Officer Rodriguez, a guy I'd done ride-alongs with for my logistics business, stepped out of the lead car. He looked at the tank, then at Beverly, then at the thick stack of paperwork I held out to him. "Morning, Marcus," Rodriguez said, ignoring Beverly's frantic gesturing. "Morning, Leo. Everything's in order. Federal Historical Vehicle Registration, Department of Defense Decommission Certificate, and the municipal permit for a stationary historical display." Beverly pushed between us, her eyes bulging. "I don't care about his permits. Our HOA bylaws explicitly forbid." "Actually, Beverly," I interrupted, my voice calm and conversational, "I spent all night rereading your precious bylaws. Section 8, Clause 3. Residents may display historical artifacts or educational exhibits on their private property for a period not to exceed 14 days, provided they do not obstruct the public right-of-way. Since this tank is registered as a historical artifact by the federal government, and it's sitting entirely on my reinforced concrete pad, it's perfectly legal." "It's a tank," she shrieked. "It's a 1960 M60 Patton main battle tank, technically," I corrected. "And since you had my Camaro towed for being an eyesore, I figured I'd replace it with something a bit more substantial, something that represents the military theatrics you said real Americans don't need." The code enforcement officer, a no-nonsense woman named Sarah, walked around the tank, checking the treads. "He's right, Mrs. Walsh. It's not a commercial vehicle, it's not leaking fluids, and it's registered as a mobile museum piece. As long as he doesn't drive it over your lawn, there's nothing the city can do." "I am the president of this HOA," Beverly screamed, her authority evaporating in the heat of the morning sun. "I will fine him, I will lien his house." About that, I said, pulling a second envelope from my pocket. This is a formal notice of a class action lawsuit being filed by 14 residents of Pine Valley Estates. It cites harassment, selective enforcement, and most importantly, financial fraud regarding the landscaping contracts. We're also petitioning for an emergency injunction to frozen all HOA accounts pending a full forensic audit. The color drained from Beverly's face so fast I thought she might faint. The neighbors were no longer hiding behind curtains. They were standing on the sidewalk, watching the queen of the cul-de-sac crumble. You can't do this," she whispered. "I didn't do it, Beverly. You did. You thought service was something to be mocked. You thought rules were things you could manufacture to feed your ego. I spent 22 years defending the rights of people like you to be miserable, but I'll be damned if I'll let you do it on my doorstep." Tom Bradley stepped forward, crossing his arms. "We've already held an informal vote, Beverly. We have the signatures for a recall. You're out, effective immediately." Beverly looked around the circle of faces, people she had bullied, fined, and intimidated for years. There was no sympathy. No one moved to help her. She was a monarch without a kingdom, standing in her bathrobe in front of 25 tons of ironclad proof that she had lost. She turned and retreated into her house, the door slamming with a hollow sound that didn't quite carry the authority it used to. Over the next few weeks, the fallout was spectacular. The audit revealed that Beverly had been skimming nearly 15% of the HOA dues into a management fee that went straight to her husband's failing business. The board didn't just remove her, they turned the evidence over to the district attorney. The tow company she used. They were hit with a massive fine for the illegal tow of my Camaro, which was returned to my driveway 3 days later, fully detailed at their expense, with a new bronze star frame bolted to the back. As for the tank, Danny's ghost sat in my driveway for exactly 14 days. Every afternoon, neighbors would bring their kids over, and I'd give them a history lesson. Mrs. Morgan sat on my porch one evening, looking at the name on the turret, her eyes tearing up. "He would have loved this, Marcus," she whispered. "He really would have." On the 15th day, the flatbed returned to take the tank back to its permanent home at the Veterans Museum. As the engine roared to life, I saw Beverly through her front window. She was packing boxes. Her house was on the market, a forced sale to cover the legal fees and the restitution she owed the neighborhood. I caught her eye for just a second. I didn't smirk. I didn't wave. I just stood there, calm and observant, a man who knew exactly how to hold the line. She pulled the blinds shut. Pine Valley Estates is quiet now. The grass is the right height. The mailboxes are at the right angle, but not because someone is checking them with a ruler. It's because people actually like living here again. Sometimes, when I'm working on the Camaro in the garage, I think about that morning. People like Beverly always mistake silence for weakness. They think that because you follow the rules, you don't know how to break the person who makes them. But as any tanker will tell you, it's not the noise that gets you. It's the 25 tons of steel you never saw coming until it was already parked on your lawn. I took a sip of my coffee and looked at the empty space where the tank had been. The tire marks were gone, the asphalt was clean, and for the first time in years, the neighborhood felt like home. What about you? Have you ever had to deal with a local tyrant who thought they were above the law? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments. And remember, stay composed, stay strategic, and always keep a heavy haul trailer on speed dial. You never know when you might need to remind someone what real service looks like.